So welcome to BISP Solutions. My name is Anjali, and in today's video, we are going to see how the lease payments are calculated for the lease asset planning in capital module of EPBCS application. And also we are going to see its validation and its accounting impact. So you can also refer my previous video for configuration of capital module as per IFRS 16 standard. So for lease calculation, first we need to understand the lease formula, how to calculate the present value of lease payments. So this is the formula for calculating the present value of lease payments, which is PV equals to sum in brackets P divided by 1 plus R to the power N bracket close plus RV divided by 1 plus R to the power N. Okay, so in this, PV is the present value, P represents the annual lease payments, R is the interest rate, N is the number of years in the lease term, RV is the residual value, and this is the formula sum in brackets P divided by 1 plus R to the power N, which is equals to the total amount paid over the lease term discounted for the interest rate, which is R. Okay, so let's go and check in our application. And for saving our time, I've already added a leased asset, calculated its value, and I've also converted and reconciled it with the existing asset. Okay, so let's go to capital module and we'll directly go to existing asset because I've already converted it into the existing asset. So as we can see here on the screen, this is extruder, which I have added here. And this is my existing asset extruder. And while adding, these are all the details which I filled. The asset description is commercial. In lease date, I had given 1/1/22, which is 1st of January 2022. Lease term is 3 years, but the estimated useful life of the extruder is 5 years. Payment frequency is annual, but the payment timing is at the beginning. We are doing annual payments, which is at the beginning of the period. All right. Ownership after the lease term will be of the lesser. Our implicit interest rate, which we talked about in the formula, is 1%. There is no override, low value override. Index rate is annual. And this is the values which are coming, and we are going to validate these figures with the formula which we just discussed. Okay, so let's go to analysis tab and see all the figures, whether it gets validated with our Excel sheet or not. So let's get to balance sheet first. Let's expand this and see our newly added asset in the existing one. Okay, so these are the figures which I am going to validate it with my Excel sheet. All right. Okay, so these are the figures. This is the PV. Okay, 44556. This is the present value of the asset which we are going to see in our Excel sheet. Okay, so let me just tell you what are all the figures. So this is the lease payment, which is 15,000. Present value is 44,555, which we calculated as per the formula of present value. This is the estimated value at the end. At the end means at the end of the lease term. Okay, these are the total expenses, which is depreciation plus interest. This is the lease term, which is 3 years. Useful life, that is the estimated life of the asset, which is 5 years. This is implicit interest rate, 1%. And this is depreciation, which I calculated, and the interest. Okay, so we are going to validate all these figures with the figures which are being calculated in our application. All right, so let's get started. Let's go to existing asset first. In this, the first figure which we see is of present value of lease, which is being calculated by the formula which we just discussed. P divided by 1 plus R to the power N. Okay, we do not have any residual value. So the application is calculating only on the basis of the lease payment, which is 15,000. Okay, so this is 15,000, which is a lease payment, annual lease payment for the 3 years. And this is the estimated value at the end. So let's go to balance sheet and validate the figures one by one. Since the payment frequency is annual, but the payment time is at the beginning of the year, that's why we can see the figures in the first month of the financial year 22. So the first amount is plant, property and equipment gross, which is the present value. Okay, and on this value the depreciation is being calculated of 1237. Let's go and check in our Excel sheet how this value is coming. So this is my Excel sheet. Okay, in this the depreciation is 14851.667 for the whole year FY22. So for the formula of depreciation, as we all know, depreciation's formula is the total amount of the asset minus the salvage value and divided by the number of years, useful years. This is the straight line method formula. So this is how I've calculated this. It's not working, just hold on. So as we can see here, the total accumulated depreciations amount is 14851. We can round it off to 14852. So my present value was 44555.93. I do not have any residual value. So I'm going to simply divide it by the number of lease term, which is 3. Okay, which comes to 14851, as you can see this. And then for monthly calculation, we are going to divide this figure by number of months, which comes to 1237. So we can see here, this is 1237. Since this is accumulated depreciation, the amount will get accumulated at the end of each month. So this is 1237 for January, and this amount gets added up in February, 1237 plus 1237. So if we add the figure for 2 times, we'll get the figure for February month, 2475, which we can see here. And similarly for March, we can do this. Let's check this amount. This plus the first month's depreciation, 3712. Okay, so this also gets validated. So our depreciation gets validated. Let's color mark this area so we can easily identify what we have done. So this is done. Next is interest calculation. So the interest is always calculated at this amount, present value of lease payment at the end of the month. Okay, so this is 44556, and on this our implicit rate is 1%, which comes to 445.56. We can round it off to 446. Okay, so let's check in our application whether this amount is coming or not. So for that, we need to go to profit and loss account and check our expenses. We can clearly see the figure of interest of 446 here. Extruder machine depreciation amount, which comes to 445.55. Okay, round it off to 446. So this is the interest amount. This also gets validated. So let's color mark this area. Okay, so this is validated. Interest is validated. So these figures for FY22 gets validated for depreciation and interest. So now one more thing which I want to show you is this amount of 14554, which is the current obligation, which means our current obligation was 15,000, which was total 15,000 minus the interest amount 445.56. So the remaining amount is our current obligation. Okay, so we can check this amount in our balance sheet. Let's expand this. So we can see this amount in the first month because of the payment frequency and payment timing, which was at the beginning of the annual month. Which was at the beginning of the year. Okay, so as we can see here, our long-term debt is 44,555, but our current portion, which is 15,000 minus the interest amount, is 14,554. So this also gets validated for year FY22. Similarly, we are going to perform this process for FY23 and FY24. So let's change the financial year. Let's go to FY23 and check the figures. So let's expand this. So here we can see in our long-term debt, this has decreased to 30,000. So how is this calculated? Let's go and check in our validation sheet. So this is coming because we have already done the payment of 14,554 in FY22. So after subtracting 44,556, which is the present value of lease for FY22 minus the current obligation of FY 2022, which comes to 30,002. Let's check this. This figure minus the current obligation. So this is the only amount which is remaining to be paid. So the present value of lease, this is 3,002. This is the remaining payment. That's why this is being shown in the long-term debt. The amount is 30,000. Okay, so this also gets validated. Now check the current obligations amount, which is 14700. So how this is here? So we have calculated the 1% interest on the remaining amount, which is 30,000, which you can see here. So after subtracting 15,000 minus 300, which comes to 14,700. So this figure also gets validated, which is also in our application. As you can see here, that this is the current portion of lease obligation. And now let's check the interest amount in profit and loss account. So this is FY23, and we can clearly see the interest amount as 300, and depreciation will be the same. Okay, and the same process for FY24. Let's check the figures of the balance sheet. So at the end of FY23, the remaining amount to be paid is 30,000 minus the current obligation. So let's check this. The remaining amount which is to be paid is 30,000 minus 14,700, which is 15,302, which is the balance over here. And on this, we will calculate the interest at the rate of 1%, which is 153. And after this, after subtracting 153 from 15,000 payment of lease, which comes to 14,847, which is also being shown in the balance sheet. Okay, so as we can see here, this is 15,301 amount, remaining amount, and this is the current portion of lease which is remaining to be paid at the end of FY24. All right, and we have already seen the interest amount, and the depreciation amount is same. And in cash flow, we can see in FY 2022, 15,000 lease payment. Okay. So this is how we can go for validation, and this is how we calculate the lease payments amount. So that's all for today. Thank you and have a great day.